Was Karen Reed framed?
We're here to see what you guys think. Our comments have been really split. Was Karen Reed framed or is she guilty? I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And as this case goes on, there's a lot of questions and a lot of doubt has been planted in people's mind. Even before the case started, a lot of people seem to have their mind made up one way or the other. Today, we're taking a look and seeing what you guys had to say about our latest video on Karen Reed. So I've pulled out some comments.
I'm kind of thirsty. I'm gonna get out my solo cup and have a drink.
Some solo cups. You can have a drink. You can take some evidence with that. We have all the options. So I'll read this thread real quick. Desert Cat, thank you for commenting. If there was a dead body, if there was a dead body on my lawn, I know the police would knock on my door and ask me about it. Why didn't the police do so in this situation? Also, why did no one in the house full of first responders come out to see what was going on when they heard the sirens right in front of their house? Too many shady things going on here. And Katie says the people in the house were involved. Desert Cat responded clearly and the cops had to know. And Ron says maybe they were skunk drunk and had only been asleep for a few hours.
Yeah, I mean, they had all been out drinking the night before, although, Karen Reed somehow mustered the strength to drive back to the scene somehow, although,
Yeah. That's a really good point where she was able to, I mean, obviously she's, sleeping alone. She notices something's wrong, but I don't know. I'm a delicate sleeper. I wake up at everything. I wake up at lights. I wake up at sounds. I'd imagine it was pretty loud. So I don't have however many drinks and go out. So I can't relate to that. Estrella, really quick comment, free Karen Reed. Did you want to read this one?
Yeah. Something from Timbo. Something ain't right somewhere. Who, how, and why needs to be answered, and the victim, Officer John O'Keefe, deserves justice. Well, of course, we agree, 100%.
Definitely agree with that. Yeah, we need to figure out exactly what happened. Always thinking, I have been watching and reading about this case since day one, including all the partial hearings and court documents, 100% innocent. And that is something that I saw a common theme in our comments. And even when we talk to people in person, a lot of people, like I said before, it's very divisive. A lot of people are saying completely innocent or completely guilty. And we see that in a lot of cases. But considering how much doubt has been placed, it's actually interesting to see something noticeable. If you look here, our video didn't perform as well as a lot of ours on Koberger, but I thought it was interesting looking at the comments. When you see here, all these comments have 10, close to 10 or more likes. So even though maybe not as many people are watching, but the people who are watching are really into it. So I was interested in seeing that. Thank you.
There's been a whole movement. There's been a whole movement that's gone on back when my friend Doug Cope was still with us. He brought my attention to this. There's been a whole huge movement down on the South Shore of Boston that's been very, very, very vocal about this case. And they just didn't think that. And I've never seen anything like it. I've been a member of the bar for 30 years in Massachusetts, and I also was a reporter before that. So I've been watching events in New England for, 50 years, to be honest. And I've never seen a case like this. And I've heard other people say the same thing. So it's not just me. I mean, the last huge case that they saw in that court in Dedham, Massachusetts was the Sacco and Vanzetti trial, which sent two alleged atheists to their deaths. And I mean, what a horrible thing that was. And who knows, maybe in 50 years people will look back at this. But Always Thinking wrote, I have been watching it. Oh, we already did that one. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were giving me another one to read.
No.
I think you have to knock off whatever's in your solo cups over there.
I've been drinking the solos too much.
Shut off.
There you go. I got a fresh one from Timothy for you.
If she was framed, the police did a terrible job. The suggestion that Karen Reed was intoxicated would lead me to believe that this was an accident. But as you have said, all the stated facts or theories combined leave me too confused to say Karen Reed is guilty. And I agree with that. I mean, I'm keeping my mind open on the case because at first blush, they had her having 6 vodka tonics at the first bar. Then they went to a second bar, and we didn't know how much she drank. And so she drove John O'Keefe over to this other party over at Brian Alberts' house, but she didn't feel like coming in because she had a stomach ache. Understandable. So that was the narrative. And then initially, they said, well, she was drunk, or then they amped up the charges to say she had intent because she was angry at him. And something I didn't point out in the previous episode that we did on this case was, the Commonwealth's theory by the district attorney in this case was that they had been fighting and she was angry and she intended to back into him. But most of the testimony in week 2 from the people who were in the 2 bars, or the second bar, the Waterfall, was that they were all lovey-dovey. I didn't bring that. I didn't bring that slide up and show it. But people. One of the people that was there, he was actually an attorney, Kolokaitis, I think his name was. He said they were lovey-dovey, and my wife turned to me and said, "Why can't you be like that to me?"
That's sad. I hate that. But I think that's a good point that you bring up there, though, because and that was one of the things in this specific episode that I had mentioned, is that it would be a different case if they had said it was an accident. But the fact that they're trying to frame it like this was thought out and that it was, it could have been intentional, I think that is really hurting their case.
Yeah, and the testimony, other testimony was that no, there were no incidents in the second bar, and there was a security camera footage that the state put in on their own case showing the 2 of them hugging. So there's really, so far, there's none of this evidence that there was any hatred afoot or breaking up afoot, or the evidence has not shown that they were unhappy with each other, that they were angry at each other, that they were fighting, it's been in all the newspapers, but that evidence hasn't really been brought forward. So the intent element, of, to say the least, has not been borne out in any of the evidence that's come forward so far.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just like, it's hard to go. I mean, you didn't say this, but it's just like, if you have people saying that they're lovey-dovey, they're hugging and affectionate, it's hard to imagine going from PDA to trying to intentionally run someone over.
Yeah, no.
Isle of Shoals, the major issue is the judge. I watched several of the hearings as well. Nasty, egocentric, and biased. I didn't, I was surprised at this comment. I wanted to hear what you had to say about this, Andrew, because I wasn't aware that the judge for this case had, that people felt some type of way.
I'm a member of the bar in Massachusetts. I've argued cases in that court, and so I'll allow people to just make their own judgments on that.
All right, next comment. And I think okay, so this might be the second to last that I pulled out. So we have Bob Cousins, if you want to read it.
Oh, Bob. From what I know so far, he says, I am struggling to make any theory of the prosecution fit the facts in the case. The defense have a lot of evidence from the FBI investigation. I think there may be some explosive revelations ahead. Looking forward to hearing your take. Well, I hope, we don't know. And we shouldn't be so hard on the prosecution because they're not done with their case. They have the opportunity. We're only done with week 2, and there's going to be a lot more. So, again, I'm keeping an open mind on the case, and we'll see.
Mm-hmm. And I believe this is the last comment I pulled, which is from Jesse Schulpix. The Google search seems pretty tough to overcome. How can you possibly explain that? That's referencing the misspelling of how long does it take a body to die in the cold or whatever it was.
How do they overcome that? I think there's got to be the answer to the question, and I'm not siding with anybody. I'm just telling you that I think their answer to your question, Jesse, is they're going to bring an expert in to say that, oh, no, the timestamp on the Google search was incorrect and it was wrong. And she really didn't do that until after John O'Keefe was discovered out in the snow. Now, whether you believe that, that's why we have juries. It's the jury is the one that decides credibility. And a lot of cases in recent years and going back, I don't know how long, are a battle of experts. One expert says one thing, another expert says another thing. And, it's really up to the jury to decide who they believe. How well did they logically present their case? And maybe more importantly, how well did they stand up to cross-examination when the opposing attorney got up and hammered him with questions? So, it's a trial. That's why they call it a trial, because it is literally a trial for everyone involved. The state, the prosecution. I'm sure they're pulling their hair out weekends. I know that an interesting aspect of this case is that not only is the public engaged fully in this case, but they're sending in documents and photographs overnight to the attorneys. When one of the witnesses said, "Oh, she didn't know the other party at all. They were just acquaintances." Overnight, the attorneys got a barrage of photographs saying, "Look at these photographs. They were on the same running team. They were together at a baby shower, or was it a wedding shower?" But my point is that people are more engaged in this trial than I've seen anyone engaged. And this is a new thing with social media. Now, you no longer have to write a letter and put a stamp on it and take it to the post office and wait until, no, overnight they're sending stuff to the lawyers. And this is a new component in trials. And it's a little bit crazy.
I definitely think, like how you said with the social media, how it's definitely making things a lot different and crazier. But I also feel it's almost similar to Idaho in the fact that it's kind of got like that small town effect. I think Idaho's a little bit different because a lot of these people didn't have connections to each other. Brian is new, like wasn't really in the area. But with the Karen Reed case, I also imagine that just in that town in particular, that everybody must be going crazy, because I think that especially now with social media, like the people who are her friend and the people that believe in her, those are also the people that can be extremely vocal. So I think that we're taking like people's personal experiences and then they're able to blast it, and then the whole world is also able to see. And I think, everybody's seeing the mistrust in this community and hearing about people in that community. I think that's playing a huge part in this.
Yeah, I wonder how you mentioned the Idaho 4 case. I wonder if social media will play the same role when that case goes to trial. People ask me, "Do you really think it'll go to trial?" Yeah, it's going to go to trial. I would bet, not the mortgage money, because thank God I paid off my mortgage, but I would bet good money that yes, it's going to go to trial. And I'm just wondering if people in Idaho will be sending stuff in to both the prosecutor and the defense to say, "Hey, what the other side is saying is a bunch of bunk. Here, I have a picture." What if we did a previous episode on this with our friend Forensic? What if somebody did see Brian Koberger at Wawa Park that night? And what if they took a picture? I mean, that's a long shot. And I know it's a long shot, but it's just an example of how social media can possibly have an impact on trials where people that never would have participated before, because all they had was the old, 3 big networks and the old big broadsheet newspaper that they used to, wrap fish in. Now people are engaged in YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook. People are engaged everywhere you go. People are looking at their screens. And I just wonder if there will be any impact on the Idaho 4 case or this case of people watching it. Because like I said, I've never, ever, in all the years that I've been around in this area, I've never seen a trial with this amount of focus on it ever. This is something new in the greater Boston area. It's not Boston, it's Canton, which is about 25, 30 miles south of Boston. But it's been taking up space in all the Boston TV shows, the news shows, the newspapers. It's been front page news. And moreover, not that any of that is all that important anymore. It's big on social media, and that's where all the attention has been on the Karen Reed case, is on social media. There are I think a half a dozen Facebook pages. I just, for the interest of this case, I friended a couple, or what do? You follow them, right? You follow
You
them.
request to join the group.
I don't have any friends. I have no friends.
Yeah.
But so I followed a couple of different Facebook groups, and they have been following this for months and months and months, if not the full 2 years since the event. And they're following the trial. I mean, I can go on the Facebook page. There's a bunch of them, but I'm only on 2 of them. And when sitting at my desk trying to get some work done, but also, watching the screen, I've checked Facebook, and there's like commentary in real time. What did she say? She doesn't know what she's talking about, or she just told a mistruth, I'll say. So this is new. This is really new.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Even just, I don't know, the social media aspect of it all, especially like right now, where I feel like we're coming off an era where there was so much police mistrust, where I think in any situation where people are questioning the police, I think that's also like what's propelled by social media. And then on top of this, it's the mess of what we're looking at, the investigation looking at is not going to help the trust, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I don't like to see that, because I want to believe that, I've represented some police, and I have some friends that are police. I have a distant family, extended family member who's a police officer. So I don't like to paint with a broad brush. I'd like to believe that the majority of police officers, especially on our local levels, are great people. They've worked hard to get where they are. They're straight shooters. We want them there if and when we have a problem. And so I'd like to believe that, we really don't know what happened in this case, but if what is being alleged is borne out to be true, we'd all like to believe that that's a fluke, that it's really a fluke, that this kind of stuff does not happen. Is it really, then you get into the whole question, is there really a framing here? Is it really malevolent, or is it just, sloppy work? Is it just, people in all professions can get lazy and indolent and sloppy. And on the one hand, we joke about the solo cups. The officer was at the scene, and they saw drops of blood in the snow. And so I don't know whether the neighbor came to them or they went to the neighbor, and they picked up the drops of blood in a solo cup. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's right. But was it really a frame? Was that aspect of this really malevolent or intentionally bad, or was it just sloppy? People can be sloppy. You've known people that have been sloppy.
I'm sloppy. And I think that's a really good point that you make too, when I think that people have, distrust of the police, or now with the internet, there's so many infinite amounts of conspiracies on this planet. I think that a really important point to make is that at the end of the day, we're all people. And even though you have people who really excel at their field, you also have people, you're just working your job and things are hard. We always, I mean, not here, but like just in general as a society, we talk about like the McDonald's employee going through it. And obviously, dealing with a death is not easy. And sometimes people just try to do what they got to do. And maybe sometimes it doesn't work out. But the other cases is just like, even though we're all human, I think that, the public holds the cops to such a high standard. So it's going to be interesting what the court of public opinion and the court decides in this case.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to walk away from this podcast and say, "Oh, those guys are against the police," or "Oh, they're for the police." I want to believe that the majority of police, do a great job. They're dedicated. It's a tough job. It's a really tough job. There have been cases recently of police being sent in for a domestic violence call, or sheriffs having to serve a summons or a warrant or other legal process, and they go there and they're shot and killed. And Every police officer knows when he wakes up in the morning that there's a possibility he may not come home at the end of the day. So I don't want anybody to think that we're painting with a broad brush and saying, police are no good or anything like that. I think that the majority of police, take it seriously. They went through a lot of training and they sacrifice and they continue to sacrifice. And I'm not trying to say there aren't bad ones. I mean, look at me. I'm in a profession that's hated. We're vilified. I go into my church and people say, you lawyers. So, and I'd like to, I've met a lot of great lawyers, really intelligent lawyers, well-learned, well-intentioned, family people that give a lot to their community, people that give a lot of time and money to their community and community activities. And, I think the same is true of my profession. The majority of us, them, we, he, she, it are honest, hardworking people. But the rotten ones that are in the profession,
make the headlines.
But that's true of anything. Most teachers are great people and they're very dedicated and they have a unforgiving job that, they're paid a pittance for putting up with kids all day. Oops, did I say that? For putting up with kids. But I mean, so I think any profession is like that. Not to say that something rotten there's not something rotten in Canton in this case. Mm-hmm. I smell a rat. A lot of people smell a rat, but let's not paint with a broad brush.
You have a beautiful take, and like you said, it's just like I know I personally have friends and families that are in law enforcement, and like you said, it's just like people can do good jobs, people can do bad jobs. I was surprised when I first started working with Andrew. We've kind of gotten past it, or at least I haven't noticed it that much, but like I feel like originally our first few videos is just like there was always at least one, this ambulance chasing attorney. So like a lot of people, that's
why we have the delete button.
We associate people, we compare people to their careers, but you think about like a little kid, and at the end of the day, a little kid says they want to grow up to be a cop. It's not because they have malicious intent. It's because they want to do the right thing and they want to help their community. And I think we need to remember people are people. There's good people, there's bad people.
So when you hear that a police officer owns a house and another police officer was found unresponsive in the snow and that first responder in the house didn't come outside, that's a valid, legitimate question with, I don't think, any kind of a reasonable answer. Mm-hmm. So don't paint me saying, our viewers love to like take one little thing that you say and, how can you say that? You got to watch the whole show and balance it all. It's just, I don't know.
There was one comment that kind of sent me, and I think you actually responded to this, and it was like, oh, you said the name wrong. You said this name, not this name. You like Adelman instead of, you said Adelberg instead of Adelman. And the comment like said that, but even in the video, like not even a few seconds later, we corrected it.
Yeah.
So it's like, how did you get that far in the video? They commented, didn't delete their comment. Maybe they stopped watching it. I don't know.
How could you make it through law school and you mispronounced a name? We've got all this equipment. You can't see on the desk all the freaking equipment we have here. We have a sound mixer, which you got to watch the whole time. We have this other gizmo. I don't even know what it is, but you got to make sure it's where, and anything can happen at any time, and it does. And, the software screws up. So, if I mispronounce something, so freaking what?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like we were saying, we're all humans, no matter our job. So I do want to say thank you guys so much for all your input. I really appreciate all your comments, and I really look forward to what you guys have to say. Anything?
Have a good week.
Have a good week, guys.
You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions. And that's that.
And that's that.
This podcast is going to the dogs. It's going to the dogs.
It's out of control. The dogs. There's dogs. There's horses. There's tunnels.
Hey, puppy. Did you enjoy the podcast?
He's like, it was a good nap time.
Sleeping through our podcast, will
you? Oh, if you made it this far into the video, say hi, Zuko. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one. Goodbye. Horses, tunnels.